Hi, this is Derek Perez for monkeysonrails.com, and I'm here today to show you how easy it is to integrate Compass, the style sheet authoring framework, directly into your Ruby on Rails applications. For those of you who haven't heard of Compass before, it's sort of like a meta framework that you can use to utilize some of the best of breed CSS grid frameworks like Blueprint or 960GS or YUI, for instance, directly into your CSS without making a mess of your HTML. It does that by harnessing SASS, which is the semantically awesome style sheet library written by Chris Epstein and Nathan Wiesenbaum. So I recommend that you get familiar with the syntax of SASS before you dive into Compass. But I do recommend that you do that. I use SASS and Compass daily at caring.com, another Ruby on Rails startup. And I have to say, I don't really know how I did CSS, especially things like Blueprint, without a tool like this before. This tool is, basically going to be with me now. Number one thing I install in my Ruby on Rails applications going forward. It's a great tool. I recommend you check it out. It makes writing CSS a lot more concise. It gives you things like nesting support, which actually has meaning for selectors, variables, and mixins. Just name a couple of great features of it. But today we're focusing on Compass and how easy it is to install. So I'm just going to pull this up really quick. These are the requirements to set up Compass in a Rails application. First of all, you need to install the Haml gem. You don't necessarily have to use Haml to utilize Compass, although I do recommend it. I use that as well, and it's a fantastic tool, but not everyone loves Haml. Either way, you have to install Haml, at least version 2.2.0, to get access to SASS. Haml and SASS are actually bundled as a package. SASS doesn't have its own gem at this time, so that's the only way you can get it. Of course, we're going to need to get the Compass gem. As of this screencast, the latest version is 0.8.9. And we're going to have to configure Rails to support Haml and configure Rails to be aware of Compass. So it seems like a lot of stuff, especially if these are all new technologies. You don't really know much about them. You aren't really that excited to dive into something so overbearing. Well, the Compass team released with version 0.8.7 of the Compass gem an official Rails application template, which makes it really, really simple to integrate Compass, SASS, Haml into your application with basically one command. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that's like. So here I am, I'm in Terminal, and I'm going to start by building a Rails app. So I'm just going to call the normal Rails command, build a Rails app called my app. I'm going to pass in the -m switch. This tells Rails that I want to build my application, but right after that, I'd love to run a Rails application template. Keep in mind, I don't have to install or download anything right now to set up Compass and Haml and SASS. All I need to do is actually just pass the URL to the installer, the Compass gem installer, as the value of the -m switch argument. So I'll show you what that looks like. I just do simply http://compassstyle.org/Rails installer. What that's going to do is that's going to build my Rails app and go and actually fetch the Compass installer live from the internet. The nice thing about this is you can always be sure that by installing Compass this way into your applications, that you'll have the latest version of both Haml, Compass, stable, and you'll have all the features you need that are tested and currently on GitHub. So it's going to ask me three questions. The first question it asks is what CSS framework do you want Compass to set up your project with by default? You can use any CSS framework that Compass supports, even things that are built by other users, in tandem with each other. It's no problem. This is just to get you up and rolling really quick. The default's Blueprint, and I prefer Blueprint myself, so I'm just going to go ahead and move forward with that. The next question it asks you is, where would you like to keep your style sheets? Personally, I prefer to keep my style sheets right in the root of the app directory with my controllers and my views, so I'm just going to move on with that. And lastly, it asks, where would you like Compass to store compiled CSS files. So of course you can't run SASS in a browser. You need to have it compiled to something the browser understands, of course, CSS. And I'm just going to let it go to public/style/sheets/compiled. That's fine for me. I might like to keep it separated in case I want to write some CSS by hand, God forbid. All right, so hit enter. My configuration's done. It asks me for my password. And now it's going to go through, grab all the gems I need. For Compass, it's going to grab the Hamel gem, and it's going to actually go through, unpack them into my installation so that I can actually view all the mixins that Compass builds and provides right there. And it's going to integrate Hamel straight into the Rails app. And let's see, Compass, Rails, right there. Everything's all set. Okay. So let's CD into my application. I'm going to open it with TextMate real quick. And first thing we're going to notice, under App, I have a new Style Sheets directory, which has a couple of preset default set of SASS files that are just going to get me up and running as fast as possible. Everything from the blueprint reset to a print style sheet and an IE style sheet, where all your IE6 fixes will go, which is great. What you'll also see is that under my public style sheets, I have a compiled directory with nothing in it. In order to get the style sheets to start compiling, you have to start up the Rails app and at least call a Rails action at least once. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in my controller really quick and just define a quick index, text, simple hello world. I'm going to go ahead and start my server. All right. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit that URL really quick. All right, so we get my hello world. So now, if I pull open my Style Sheets compiled directory, I'm going to see 3 new CSS files that should look very, very familiar. Here's my IE style sheet that was generated from just this. Really, there's only 2 lines going on in this file. You can see it's written out all this CSS for you that you would have had to write by hand. You might be thinking this is kind of noisy and these files are really large. Compass actually supports, or it's either Compass or SASS, supports an argument that lets you actually control and minify your CSS in production mode. That way it's lighter weight. But the nice thing is when you're in development mode, it actually gives you comments inline that tell you what line and file that each of the generated styles lives in, which, the files that you can find them in. So let's take a look at this. Take a look at the screen. Look at all this. It's doing all the reset for us. It's doing all the blueprint stuff that we need. It's fantastic. It's very easy to use. So there you go. This application is now set up to use Compass, SASS, and Hamel, and it only took 1 command to get it all set up. So if you want to learn more about any of these technologies, you can go to sass-lang.com to read up on SASS and get familiar with it. I also recommend that you use Hamel with SASS. They go together really nicely and they're fun to use. You can check out Hamel at hamel-lang.com. And of course, if you want to see Compass in action and read more about it in the docs, go to compass-style.org. Also, check out the GitHub repository for Compass. The wiki there is fantastic. And it has lots of information, documentation on how to build your own plugins and just how to get around and work your way around the framework. All right, thanks so much for watching. This is Derek Perez for monkeysonrails.com.